Hello, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. This is a cloudy day, so I have some weird lighting going on, which what else is new, right? But I wanted to film a wrap up of what I read in August. Now, you may have noticed I'm in a different room today. This is my studio and Lisa's studio. So that's her desk behind me. And then this is my crafty card making, scrapbooking desk as well. This is the same setup we had in the old house, except it was an L shape and you couldn't see her side of the desk. I'm all over the place here, but we had to separate it in this room because of the way this room is structured. And so yeah, it's a mess. This one is the messiest room of our house because we're still trying to settle into this space and we are in here often creating. So that's that. I do have these books stacked behind me that you can see. They were moved from the garage into the house, several stacks. I'm going to talk about where my book babies are in another video. But for today, that is, it's a bookish video. So I'm in a bookish space, but I'm actually filming in here because Lisa is resting today. She's not feeling quite herself. So I didn't want to disturb her by filming a video in a nearby place where she would maybe be unable to rest. So that's why I chose to be in here today. But I probably won't choose to be in here most of the time. Now, what did I read in August? So I read 5 books in August and I DNF'd one book in August. And that one I talked about the other day in my library haul video. That was summer reading. I did not enjoy summer reading, so that one did not make it to the list to talk about today. But I also need to be a little bit cryptic about one of them because it is one of my 5-star predictions. So I'm going to tell you how I finished it and a little bit about it, which may be ridiculous because you probably already know a lot about this book, but I'm not going to tell you my rating on it. So let's get started. So the first one I finished in the month of August was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, the hyped book of the year, maybe the century, the way it's going. This one was a chunker. It's almost 500 pages. I finished it fairly quickly, I would say. It is a fast read, short chapters, fantasy category. Some people are describing it as young adult. Some people are very adamant that it's not young adult. And here's what I'm going to say about that. I would say that what you need to know about this book, if you're considering, reading it, or if you're thinking about your own young people reading it, know your child or your young adult if you're still purchasing or approving their purchases, which you probably are not. My parents never censored anything for me, so I am very careful not to suggest that you would need to do that. I also want you to know that the main character is 20 years old. So while that is a young adult, certainly that is an adult with choices. And some of the other characters in this book make some adult choices too. This is a fantasy, but it's very centered around some violence and some death. And there are some steamy scenes, definitely. And so I think just know that it's probably more adult than young adult, but it is young adult character. So there's that as well. This follows a young woman named Violet. And in the world where Violet lives, there are quadrants of different kind of organized people to maintain peace and tranquility in the world. And Violet is what's known as a scribe in the start of this book, which means she is assigned to the library and learning and research and those kinds of things. And she's very happy doing that, although the other people in her family have all been dragon riders. So she was not connected to that quadrant until one day her mother, who is a big leader in this hierarchy of politics, if you will, and of creating rules in the world that they live in, decides that Violet is going to be a dragon rider, as everyone else in their family has been. That is not the space where Violet really feels comfortable and wants to be, but that is where she ends up being. I'm going to shut this blind because I feel like that's not working. Rainy days and Mondays. I'm just going to say that. That's the song going through my head. Okay. Brash light. Okay. So Violet is sent to be a dragon rider, and this is the first of what I think is a trilogy. I have pre-ordered the second one. I can tell you that it was a quick read for me. It was a little confusing because I'm not a big fantasy reader. I had to rely on my two friends, the Sarahs in my life, who I knew had read it and were really hoping that I would read it and excited that I was reading it. That's Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, and my other friend Sarah, who's a big reader, and we read a lot together, actually, or we read a lot of the same stuff. But they were very good to help me understand, do I need to care about this moment and this information? Is there something I missed? Is there because I've been out of the fantasy reading world for a really long time. I was much more entrenched in it when I was a younger person and a young adult, ironically, but I'm not such a fantasy reader these days. I do wonder if I am ready to add more of that to my life, and I have actually hauled more fantasy or added more fantasy to my stack, so we'll see. But I did enjoy this one. I do plan to do a further wrap up on this, and maybe there will be some spoilers then, so I'll warn you, but I completed it. And again, I can't tell you what I rated it. Then I read Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This one, I can tell you, was an amazing experience for me. I have no reason to hold back how much I loved this. I love Ann Patchett, so I was not surprised that I was going to love Tom Lake. I did some book darting. I did some post-it notes so that I would remember what to make sure to tell you about today. But this was glorious. It's a very short read, which kind of disappointed me a little bit. I wanted it to be a little bit longer. I think The Dutch House was significantly longer than this. People seem to either love this or they really don't like it. I loved that I could listen to Meryl Streep read it, and I felt like she was no longer Meryl Streep. I felt like she was Laura, who's the main character. I really did. And then I also decided I was going to get a physical copy of it too. This is, as you can see, the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and Reese's Book Club posted or blurbed it as well. It's really kind of almost as famous as Fourth Wing is at the moment, but not quite. It's interesting to me that one of the contentious points about this is that there are daisies on the cover instead of cherry blossoms, but I'm just going to say I think it's a beautiful cover, and I don't really feel like that's a big deal for me. Laura, though, has a cherry orchard. She and her husband have been there for a long time, and they are harvesting cherries during the pandemic when they have a shortage of people to support them, as they normally would, in getting those cherries picked. So they enlist the help of their daughters, three of them, three girls, that are able, because of the pandemic, to support them and to live in that area with them. So it doesn't overly focus on the pandemic, which I really appreciated because I'm not keen on pandemic books, although I did read one during the pandemic, which was quite fun. But I do think that the story is really about this family and about Laura and about her history. The introduction of it essentially is that one of her daughters was sort of obsessed with this actor, and as a young person, and they bring this up while they're picking cherries, and his name was Duke. His nickname was Duke. And one day, as they're talking, they bring this obsession up, and their mom says that she knew him, and they are shocked. Then she starts to tell the story of her relationship to the theater, to acting, and subsequently to Tom Lake, which was a repertory company in Michigan. I think it was Michigan or Wisconsin. It's set somewhere in the Midwest. I loved it. It's beautiful. It's glorious. It also really, I would say, one of the themes around this book is the things that we share about ourselves in our memories and our lives. And when we choose to share those with our children or with others, but mostly with our children. And then some of the things that our children don't share with us too. And we do, again, sort of do that when we're ready. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated the, kind of the, like I said, just owning the pandemic as a bit of a setting space for this novel, but not anything that took it over, which I really appreciated. I loved that it was set in the Midwest because I am from the Midwest. Let me see what else I wanted you to know about this. Oh, the conflation of some of our memories, and are they still clear in our minds? Are they important and relevant? Do we not remember that we did those things, which of course is sometimes the case as we get older. I really loved that aspect of it and just kind of, did that happen? Yeah, no, that did happen. As a lot of Ann Patchett's novels tend to do, there was a choice that the main character made toward the end of the novel. And I'd be curious if you read this. And of course, we don't want to spoil for anyone, but I sometimes rail against that choice. And this has happened to me more than once. And it happened to me here too. So when I first finished it, I was just really, really angry about the choice that that character made. Then as I thought it through and I gave some time, I decided I was really okay with that. And in the end, I gave this 5 stars. In fact, I need to go back to Goodreads and see if I ever did add my rating because I was so mad. I didn't really want to do that right then, but I'm okay now. Okay, then I picked up The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. I have a not a boarding pass, but a gate pass in there that needs to go away. I've had this one since early 2022. I'm trying to read through my Book of the Month Club books because I don't want to have too many on my backlist. And so this was one that I picked as a result of my Try a Chapter read that I did. You may have seen in a previous video. I gave this 3 stars. Let me just start out by saying I struggled with this one a lot. I actually listened to it as well as read it, not in tandem, but separately. This was not, I didn't feel the same way about this one that I felt about The Lions of Fifth Avenue for sure. So there are 2 women, dual timelines, as always happens for Fiona Davis, I would say. Spanish Flu, Lillian Carter is a model for statues in the city of New York. And she's been very successful at this for a long time. And as Lillian ages, and she also was given permission to do this by her mom, which I think was interesting and a bit of a surprise. But as she ages, Lillian struggles with relevance and with patience and she's sort of wanting something else from her life. Then Lillian actually does get a job with the Frick family to support the Frick's daughter, who is also a very complex, unlikable character, which may have something to do with how I felt about this. I liked Lillian. I didn't love, what was that woman's first name? Helen Frick. So that storyline details what happened within the Frick family and with their cultivation of art and with their family dynamics and relationships and with Lillian and her life trajectory as a result of being there in that space. And then the other character is Veronica Weber. Veronica is from Britain and she comes to New York City as a model to be in a photo shoot in New York City in the winter. Some challenges happen and then she ends up in the Frick home. I think it was the photo shoot was in the Frick home maybe or very nearby. I can't really remember now that I think about it. And I didn't read this that long ago. But anyway, Veronica is kind of catapulted into this knowledge of Lillian. One of my biggest issues was I think, maybe you don't, the narrator, her British accent just was not working for me. Like it was really distracting me from the story. So let's just go there. Yeah, I found that there were so many characters that were somewhat challenging for me, that was part of it. And I just didn't get into the storyline as much. I felt like it kind of, I don't know, it was just a little weird. Having said that, though, this is based on a real life model, that model story. And when she talks about it in the back, it's just fascinating what actually happened during this woman's life. But none of that is kind of contained in this, except for there's a lot of liberties that she took with Lillian's life. But I wouldn't not recommend this. It just didn't work for me in the same way as another Fiona Davis has done, but that doesn't mean I won't read more books by Fiona Davis. In fact, I really want to get to some of those. So not terrible for sure. The Whispers by Ashley Audrain was a fairly new book of the month acquired book for me. So I knocked out 2 of them this month, which I was really happy with. This was a highly anticipated read for me, and I wasn't going to read it in August because I thought it was a thriller, but then I was corrected by someone who said, no, this is contemporary literary fiction. And indeed, I would say that that is true. I felt like The Push was more of a thriller, but I might want to go reread The Push again because I read that at a time where I was really kind of blowing through books and not thinking them through as carefully as I'm trying to do now. This one starts out with a very unlikable character as well. And she remains unlikable through most of the book, I think. But there is also a sense of brokenness to her that I think eases my feelings about her that would have influenced how I felt about the book. But sometimes an unlikable character can really mess with the entire book. So Whitney is her name. So Whitney's neighborhood is everybody kind of knows each other. They get together a lot and sort of, drink and have barbecues and whatnot. Not all of them in the neighborhood do, but a good number of them do. And Whitney has 3 children, an older boy, although he's not very old. I mean, he's in it maybe middle grade kind of child. And then she has 2 twins that are younger. And Whitney is a driven woman. She's unlikable through most of the book, but not so unlikable that you can't see her for being human. So it's a little bit different than an unlikable character that really ruins a book for me. I could feel compassion for her. I could feel a sense of there's a reason why this woman is kind of like this, and I'm okay with exploring that. Whitney's having a barbecue, or they're having a big party as usual, but she goes upstairs, and for whatever reason there's an altercation with her older son, and it's loud and everybody downstairs hears it. It's awkward. And then later that same child is found at the bottom of an open window of his room and is in a coma and is very, very significantly injured. And as a result of that, all of the people in this neighborhood that this book kind of features are exploring their feelings about this incident and about their feeling about this boy, their relationship, if they had one or didn't have one with this boy, and their relationship to motherhood. And that to me was the beauty of this story. There were some male characters and they did play a role, but they were very external, kind of frivolous, outside, just enough to tell you what you needed to know about what was happening to these women. I loved this. I really did. I gave it 4 stars. I'm not sure what would have bumped it to a 5, but it has one of the most memorable ending lines that will stay with me forever. The way she ends this book is incredible. I just feel like that was amazing. So there's that one. And I really did like it. And I love that cover. And then I snuck in the last one from my library, which I did talk about, The Hall. Let me look at what I rated that. Yeah, that's what I thought. I snuck in the last one, and that was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. First read by this author for me. I really liked Yellowface. I need to return it to my library soon. I guess I gave it 4 stars. It's a complex book, and I love that. So it's not, oh, it's this or oh, it's that. It's very ambiguous. Let's just say that. It's very ambiguous. So this novel is about two women who went to college together, both writers. One of them publishes a so-so debut novel. The other one publishes a blockbuster. It catapults her to success. It is like, maybe like Fourth Wing kind of hyped. And so, of course, there's a little bit of animosity between the two of them that's lingering, but they do get together periodically to have drinks. And that in this particular instance, they get together to have drinks, and they go back to the successful woman's apartment, and they're talking and they're drunk and they're eating and they're doing all these things. And then the successful author chokes on her food and dies in front of the other character, who's, I should be telling you their name. So the author who's the one who chokes is Athena, and the one who does not choke is June Hayward. Okay, Athena is an Asian American, and June is not. And that's important because this novel, I would say, it explores racism, it explores cultural appropriation, it explores accepting and acknowledging culture and ignoring it. Attribution, a lot of gray areas, is just really good. I really enjoyed it. I want to read more by this author, and I gave this one 4 stars. I think lately my 5 star reads have to be pretty like, and it just wasn't quite there. Last couple of years, I gave 5 stars to everything. I was just like, yeah, fine, you have 5 stars, you give 5 stars, you give 5 stars. And this year, I'm much more kind of in consideration of that. And maybe it's because I'm back on BookTube, and so it matters to me what you guys think and what I'm thinking and what's a 5 star read. It just, I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Doesn't matter. 4 stars, but I do recommend it. I was really pleased by this. And I do think my friend said I have to read Babel. I think it's Babel or Babel next. So my friend Lisa said, and I'm going to do it. So that is it. 5 that I finished and really enjoyed for the most part, and then one that I did not and I DNF'd, and that is my August wrap up. And I'm happy to just kind of be steadily plugging along with that 5 or 6 or sometimes a little bit into 7 or 8 reads a month. But my sweet spot is about a book and a half a week, and that's probably where I'll stay, just given my current situation. But we'll see. I can't wait to talk to you about what you read in the comments below or on social media. If you haven't followed me there, feel free to do that. I'm on Instagram as well as Facebook. Those links are in the description box below. And as always, happy reading. Bye.